Okay, well, thanks everyone for joining today. So let's go right into it. So today's presentation is by Ronaldo Martins from University of Sao Paulo. He's going to be talking about some SARS-CoV-2 lymphoid infections and some interesting work related with infections related to the human tonsil and PBMCs. Um, Again, I always have this slide up every week saying, trying to figure out if we can have an in-person meeting, try to do one. I know people are tired of COVID. I've kind of changed the goals meetings to include all infectious diseases, maybe a small meeting related to what we've learned from COVID-19 research and apply it for future pandemics and infectious disease. But if anyone has potential ideas of where to have it, sponsors, let me know because I'm always putting this on the radar. It could be in the U.S., it could be in Brazil, it could be Europe, it could be anywhere. We just need sponsors that would help potentially uh, uh, have a place and fund it. Yeah, just papers. Hopefully, we'll hear from one of our mitochondrial paper anytime soon. That could add to this preprint here. I think it's in the final stages, but hopefully it should be accepted soon. Fingers crossed. And just some other quick updates. Al's going to be probably sending out an email to the group about these long COVID case reports. People are interested in helping out. He sent it out before the holidays, about a few months before, but now he's gotten some more approvals to actually go forward with the patients have given approvals and all that. So he has all that paperwork done. So now he's looking for people to help write this interesting two interesting long COVID cases for a case report study that he just wants to get out and submit, and maybe the public can find it useful for these case reports. But keep an eye out for an email from Al, and then if you want to help out, I know he has a list of people already interested, but if others want to be interested and help, more the merrier. Okay, so let's just dive into the news. I'm going to keep track and try to keep this short, like 10 minutes, so I could give Ronaldo enough time to talk the rest of the time about his interesting work. In the U.S., I keep this up here because still they're offering free COVID tests. So I know this was from before the holidays for the winter, but you still haven't done it and you want to get your free COVID tests, go to this website and get it. And this leads to some of the news articles on this about, are these COVID tests still, some people, not here, but outside in the community, have maybe concerns about, are these rapid tests still reliable, even with the new variants? And indeed they are, based on everything we know what the rapid tests to do. And again, this is a nice NPR article, talks about the deficiencies of a rapid test compared to PCR, but overall, the variants haven't changed its detection capability, let's put it that way. And this is a nice review paper down here that has come out from Nature Reviews Bioengineering, talking about lateral flow testing engineering and lessons learned from COVID-19. So in case you wanted to read a very nice review about it, and then they have a nice perspective about what's out there, what's been done, and then what can be applied for the future and future generations of creating lateral flow testing for other diseases or viruses and things like that. So people are interested, check out that review. I thought that was pretty neat. And this article here, I thought was interesting because we had one of our meetings yesterday with the inflammation group. Rob Schwartz had mentioned, or maybe it was after that meeting, that he's been seeing a lot more cases of co-infections of the flu and COVID. And this article that came out, I found 2 days ago, starts talking about that. Can you get at the same time? And indeed, like they're saying cases, especially in children too, with RSV, which is interesting. That in this paper that has come out 2 days ago, actually talks about it. That infants less than 6 months of age do seem to have this co-infections of the flu or RSV or COVID-19. This paper here is an epidemiological study that actually looked at population of 4,000 some children hospitalized, and they saw these percentages of different SARS-CoV-2 and co-infections of other viruses. And it was more, I think, prominent, as they said in this paper, under 5 years old. So if you're interested to read about that, they didn't talk about the biology. It's more just the case, looking at the statistics and things like that. So the biology, I think, is still not understood. Let's say what virus might outcompete each other and what's driving it, but they do know that the severity increases, as they point out in their study, when you have these co-infections for the children under 5. Um, so that was an interesting article and paper about that. And some other news. This paper had come out. I'm not sure if you had seen it. I just saw it come out yesterday, talking about sex-specific effects of COVID-19 on the immune system. So I don't know if the inflammation group might want to pay attention to this, but it was interesting. This is the Nature Medicine piece about it, and this is the Nature paper about it. But they're talking about sex differences, and then also how the influenza vaccine might put the abstract here highlighting different parts of the paper, but how the influenza vaccine might change your outcome of COVID-19 based on different immune profiles. I skimmed through this paper. I haven't read it in depth, but here's a figure from it. And the study population was from 2020, so it doesn't talk about the new variants in Omicron and things like that, but talks about how the influenza vaccine might have some interesting sex-dependent changes in your outcome. Um, Again, I kind of skimmed through this paper, looked at it. I haven't read it in depth, so if there are any questions, let me know. But I'll send out the slides so you could actually check out this paper if you're interested. It just came out yesterday. Or actually, sorry, just came out earlier this month. The article on Nature Medicine came out yesterday. So yeah, if there's any questions, but some interesting points they bring up about different immune cells and immune system activity happening with after infection and with the influenza vaccine. Some long COVID news. There's an article here talking about long COVID and healthy kids and how it's debilitating, and they're talking about some previous studies that we have discussed in the past year. But just in case, people have concerns, there's a nice little CNN article talking about it and summarizing some of the studies about long COVID in children that very well do exist. This review paper came out last Friday after our meeting, but I sent this out to some people. It's a review paper by Eric Topol, a very nice comprehensive review paper, so I thought I'll put it here just in case people haven't seen it yet from last week. But he does a really nice job. This group, Hannah and Lisa and Eric and Julia, did a really nice job providing a very good comprehensive review of long COVID, what is known to date. So talking about the different symptoms, pathologies, the different theories of what happens with long COVID, and then they also go on to talk about how the vaccines, different ideas like saying maybe the vaccination might improve 50%, some studies say improve 12%, or reduce the chances of long COVID by that. But it's a nice, very nice comprehensive review of what is known and then his perspective of what is going to happen and what should be studied. So if you haven't checked it out and you're interested, it's a pretty nice review there about all the publications. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm intrigued that under fatigue, he doesn't mention mitochondria or muscle or any of the issues that our paper is going to address.
Yeah, I did a search for mitochondria. There's only 13 instances of the word mitochondria in the review. So he talks about it, he addresses it, but he doesn't emphasize it. So, which I think
he mentioned in one of these things, fatigue, for example, some other, just things, just which might be, who knows, related to mitochondria. It's fatigue is neurological, fatigue blood vessels, so that gives me some, foot in the door.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So and I think the point is for the mitochondria, he talks about mitochondria in the paper, but there's not much literature, so he doesn't spend too much time on it either. And for long COVID, so I think
obviously we have to change that.
Yes, exactly. I think we will, hopefully. So, but it's other than that, other than the lack of mitochondrial discussion, I think it's a pretty good review. Here's another paper that came out 2 days ago talking about persistent COVID-19 case 6 months after, and then the role of vaccinations. So this is I haven't seen a paper that's done a nice job talking about the percentages, but it's another paper talking about 41% lower risks reported after 6 months if you were vaccinated. So, again, it's a study that they used, about 1,800 adults, looked at it after six months. Again, no biology, but more just looking at the symptoms related, as he puts here, pulmonary, diabetic, so on, mental health, and related to the pre-infection baselines of the patients before, they didn't have long COVID. So this seems promising again, that vaccinations, as I said in Eric Toppel's review, obviously before this came out, this paper, he cited papers that said vaccination can reduce 50% or it's anywhere from 10 to 50%. And now this paper is saying 41. So it's probably somewhere in between like this, 41%. And then just another note, I usually don't cite BuzzFeed news, but this article has caught my attention. Long COVID may ruin booze, but the basic synopsis of this or underlying things that long COVID can increase your chances of alcohol intolerance. But I mean, obviously, the good news, as the writer points out, is you can avoid this by stop drinking. So, so if you have, for some people that might not be good news, but the good news is that you could avoid alcohol intolerance. But that there is increased incidence that clinicians have been reporting for this with long COVID. And it talks about some of the, interviews, some of the clinicians talking about what they think could be the cases. Like, for example, maybe it's due to the liver injury that might be COVID can cause, maybe due to some other issues. It goes into that. So this PAX thing, just go quickly through the case numbers. So I'll give Ronaldo enough time. On the U.S. right now, BQ.1 is still around, but XBB, as we know, is taking off. The good news is, at least seems like it's a good news, is the wastewater, the cases are coming out. This is last week, it was up here, but now, as you see, nationally, the cases, and this is Middlesex County where I live, has drastically decreased. But so that's maybe potentially good news for the cases waning after the holidays. This is the nowcast forecast, which is usually pretty accurate. This XBB is the dominant strain. You can see around the U.S. still northeast, or the East Coast is dominant that, and the rest of the U.S. is going to follow closely behind that. Globally, you can't really make out here, but let's go to this one here where you can see globally that is the trend. Even in places like Hong Kong, which is close to China, or right next to China, they had their peak cases and they're all coming down. So it seems like globally cases are going down after the holidays. Some more in-depth thing like France, you can see that's going down. USA, as I already said, cases are going down. Same with Brazil, where our speaker today is going to talk about. In South America, their cases are going down. They had a little spike and now it's going down. And Japan was a concern because you could see the cases were really spiked up after the holidays, but their deaths and their ICUs are going up, probably I would hypothesize left over from the increase in cases. South Korea, same thing. They had their spike, cases going down. So in South Africa, I keep showing because they stopped reporting things back in July. So I'd make a plea if anyone has any colleagues. I know they have done a lot of great work with surveillance and it's a lot of good papers have come out of their scientific institutions. So if anyone knows any scientists that want to join our group and give us the accurate representation of what's happening in South Africa with COVID, please let me know. I'd like them to join us.